Let's talk about how we present the mean and the standard deviation in a frequency distribution graph. I can present it graphically here. As you can see on the left, I may have some hypothetical mean that's 80 with a standard deviation of 8. And it's represented graphically where I can see the mean and the average spread. Or on the right where I have a mean of 16 in some separate example with a standard deviation of 2 either way. And in this case, of course, we're faithfully representing the characters are different, mu and sigma versus capital M and S with populations and samples respectively. So that's a convenient way to do it. Also, I've got means and standard deviations as they appear typically in tables. So in this case, I've got capital M, which generally stands for the sample mean, although occasionally you'll see X bar. Generally speaking, we only see X bar in textbooks and not in research articles. So capital M is favored. And of course, SD capitalized stands for the standard deviation. Now, I don't know why we use lowercase s in textbooks and then turn around and use capital SD in research articles. It's just a quirky thing, I suppose, in APA, but that's typically the way it's listed, and I can go through here and examine things. So one thing I could look at right away, let's see, there's a number of aggressive behaviors for male and female adolescents after playing a violent or a non-violent video game. You can see right away, as a toe in the water, there's more variability for the males, curiously enough. They showed more violent acts than the females in either condition, violent or control, but they also had more variability, which is kind of interesting. Conversely, look how little variability the females had. It was much more constrained around their mean. And that's a nice barometer. It's a toe in the water, sort of tells us a story, if you will. And that's one of the beautiful things about descriptive statistics is now, without any explanation at all, the discerning reader can see the means and see that males were more violent in either condition. And we could also see that the violent video game caused more violent acts irrespective of gender. So that's a nice, easy takeaway message. But also, not only do I have the means, I have the spreads. For some reason, the females were more uniform in their behavior, a very tight distribution around the mean. So, it's amazing how so much information could be conveyed in so little space. That's a beautiful thing. Just like when you go to the car lot, you see the price, and then you see performance aspects about the car. Like when we were 6 years old, young children, you didn't know what MPG meant, miles per gallon. Now, if I go buy a Toyota Corolla and it says 40 MPG, I say, oh my gosh, wow, that's wonderful. That's a really favorable gas mileage rate. But also, there are other things like a 4-cylinder engine and horsepower statistics that would tell me that the Toyota Corolla is probably not a racing car. It's a very conservative car with, frankly, a weak engine, but it does get excellent gas mileage. Conversely, a strong engine that has an 8-cylinder would have a lot of power and a lot of torque, but probably pretty poor gas mileage. Those are things we know now that we didn't know as children. And by the same token, the use of symbols in research tells us a nice story without having to say too much. We're getting discerning. We're getting, sophisticated in looking at numbers.